Two women toll booth attendants, Maya and Dinny, were working in different places that night while calling on the phone. Dinny, who was at the downtown toll road, was always crowded with cars passing by. Unlike Maya, where she was on duty, there were rarely cars passing by, and indeed the toll road was about to be closed. Moreover, it was 1 p.m. They both planned to resign and try their luck to selling clothes, because more and more toll roads are using machines. Not to mention that for the past week, Maya has always had strange motorists going back and forth on the toll road, looking at her with horrified gazes and dirty hands. Especially last night, where the driver even entered and exited the highway several times. The driver always looked at Maya for a long time. Diney joked, saying that maybe that person's job was a grave digger, so it's natural to go back and forth on the highway because there's a lot of work. Not long afterward, the strange man came again in his old car. The problem was that Maya was guarding alone because her friend went briefly to the office. Overnight, the strange man could go back and forth 3 times. That's why Maya thought she should open her own business, their clothing store. A frightened Maya immediately locked the door and closed the window because the strange man stopped on the side of the road and walked up to her, then banged on her window. Maya ventured and tried a brave to open the window, and the strange man asked, "Your name is Rahayu, right? From Harjosari village, your father's name is Ki Danawangso, right?" In panic, Maya could only remain silent. Then suddenly, the strange man returned to the car and took a mashit. Obviously, Maya, who was panicking, immediately ran away from there, but the strange man managed to chase her. Strangely, the strange man who saw the scar on Maya's right thigh tried to tear it off. Until finally, when Maya was to be killed, the police had arrived. While holding back tears, the mysterious strange man said that their villagers did not want what Maya's family had left behind to remain there, and it must be destroyed. Then when Maya was to be killed, the police shot the strange man in the head. And so, the story of Impetigore begins. 3 months later, Maya and Dinny had resigned and started selling clothes at the market, but it doesn't sell much. Because of the previous terrible incident, Maya, who had been left by her parents since the age of 5, was looking for information about her father and mother. After checking her aunt's belongings, they found old photos that might be Maya's parents. Because Maya herself had also forgotten her parents' real faces. On the back of the photo were the names Ki Danawangso, Niai Shinta, and Rahayu, who was still 5 years old. According to the words of the strange man, who suspected Maya was Rahayu and her father Ki Danawangso. In addition, Maya's aunt also called her Rahayu, but for some reason it is now changed to Maya. The photo shows her family's very large house. Therefore, Maya also plans to visit the house. Who knows, there are valuable items left behind that can be sold to improve their economy. Fortunately, Maya still remembered the name of the village spoken by the strange man, namely Harjosari village. As a friend, Diney will also accompany Maya because it is dangerous to go anywhere alone. Then when Maya wanted to pee, suddenly a trickle of blood appeared from yesterday's mashit wound, even though the wound had previously dried up a long time ago. Feeling that something had emerged from the wound, Maya took it, which turned out to be a roll of paper with ancient Javanese script. Then Maya immediately take a picture it, without feeling the slightest suspicion. But because Diney opened the door, suddenly Maya, who was shocked, accidentally dropped the paper into the water closet. After the toilet, Maya was to leave the deserted market and look for Diney. Maya also felt the atmosphere became strange. She seemed to be experiencing paranoia. Long story short, the two of them went by bus to Harjosari village, which is located in the Banyuwangi area. Shortly thereafter, the gentleman passenger at the back said hello, and it turned out that he was a literature lecturer. Maya immediately asked the lecturer to interpret the Javanese script that came out of her wound the other day. Seeing the picture, the lecturer was surprised. Although he couldn't exactly translate it with ordinary mean, it was certain that the writings were spells or amulets, and whoever has it will not be disturbed by spirits or other entities. But the one who made the talisman was a bad person. Because it was late at night and the trip still took another 5 hours, they finally decided to sleep first. But Maya had seen 3 girls lined up in the forest, which of course they were not human. The next morning, they arrived at the bus station, but none of the coachmen knew Harjasari village. Fortunately, there was one young coachman named Nano who knew the location of Harjasari village. But he didn't want to take them because the village was very far and remote in a small village unless he paid more. Inevitably, Maya and Denny had to pay more so that coachman Nano could take them there. On the way through the forest, Nano said that he knew Harjasari village because he used to drive the village head named Ki Saptati. He was also a famous shadow puppeteer and had performed in Nano's village. After a long journey, they arrived at Harjasari village. The villagers looked on with cold stares. They also passed a cemetery and a large house, which allegedly belonged to Maya's parents. Maya and Dinny asked to be dropped off at Ki Saptati's house, the village head. Nano gave them his business card in case they needed a pickup. Arriving at the house, a grandmother named Nai Misni, Ki Saptati's mother, came out. Nai Misni said that her son Ki Saptati would be home tonight and asked them to come again tomorrow morning. While waiting for Ki Saptati, Maya and Dinny also stopped by Maya's parents' heritage house, where there was a path in the middle of the weeds. This means that there are still people passing by the house. Maya was desperate to break the lock on the door of the house, and they finally entered to look around the house. There was a very large painting of a man in one of the rooms, and in another room there are many puppets that have been worn out. While Diney checked the water in the bathroom, which was full of twigs, Maya found a stack of photos of her family. But strangely, there was not a single picture of her as a child, only pictures of her mother and father. Then suddenly from a distance appeared a hooded figure who approached. Shortly thereafter, the voice of the villagers was heard. Then when peeked out of the window, it turned out that there had just been a villager who died and was just buried. The two of them finally came to the only cemetery in Harjasari village to look for Maya's parents' grave. And sure enough, the graves of Ki Danawangso and Niai Shinta were there. After praying for her parents, they were to return home, but they found that there were many small children's graves there. Not even a few of them have not been named. In addition, the inscription Harjasari Cemetery in front turned out to cover the actual carving of the Waf burial ground, or in other words, it was a private cemetery owned by Danwangso. It was as if the people in the village had deliberately covered it up, and Dinny suspected that the villagers hated Maya's family. Since they had to wait to meet Kai Saptati in the morning, and it was getting late, they were forced to sleep in Maya's parents' house. Maya heard a strange sound. From the direction of the sound, it turns out that there is an apparition of a small child who seems to be trying to communicate with Maya. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a new villager gave birth to her baby. But what is very terrible, suddenly Ki Saptati, the village head, comes. He took the baby and was immediately killed by drowning. The next morning, the baby will be buried. Of course, Maya and the early onlookers were wondering because within 2 days, 2 babies had died. Those who saw the funeral were finally visited by Ki Saptati and several villagers. Then Maya pretended to be a student who wanted to do research on Wayne Kulit. At first, Ki Saptati was suspicious because Maya's physique looked older than college students, but Ki Saptati finally invited them to come to his house to talk. After that, Dinny also asked them both to go home immediately. The strangeness starts from the very strange and cold stares of the villagers, 2 babies who died within 2 days. For the inheritance of the house, Denny also suggested paying someone to take care of it, not to mention the strange man who tried to kill Maya. It's possible that the strange man also has something to do with the house. But Maya still insisted on the 2 of them to stay there, because Maya doesn't have money to pay someone to take care of it, and Maya has also claimed to be a student. It would be strange to suddenly just leave. Maya was still convinced that it was impossible for the villagers to try to harm a student. Diney finally complied with Maya's wishes. She said goodbye to go home to take a shower, while Maya wanted to find food first there. Luckily, there was a food seller named Ratty. Maya also bought food there, as well as finding out about the house without divulging her true identity. Ratty answered that there used to be a family living there. The villagers believe that the family is a demon family that has left a terrible disease. On the other hand, after Dinny finished bathing, she was visited by two villagers who said that Maya and Dinny should not stay at the house anymore, because the house was outdated and afraid that the roof would collapse. Dinny also asked who this house used to belong to, and the man replied that the house used to belong to a family and now has been passed down to his only daughter named Rahayu. Kai Saptati also still kept all the papers of his house and had been waiting for Rahayu's arrival to hand over the papers. Hearing this, Diney became frantic, claiming to be Rahayu. The two villagers looked shocked. They said that if it was convenient for Diney, who claimed to be Rahayu, to meet Ki Saptati now to retrieve her documents, because the head of the village was going to another village for a shadow puppet show. Diney immediately agreed, and she would be taken to see Ki Saptati, who was said to be at a villager house. Diney was taken to meet Kai Saptati, but there was something strange the longer they went through a small road until there was no path. Instead, they entered a bamboo forest. Diney, who began to get suspicious, immediately said goodbye to go back home. But suddenly, these two men immediately detained Diney. They even pulled out a knife. Terrified and panicked, Diney ran blindly into the forest. Unfortunately, she stumbled and was immediately knocked unconscious by being hit with wood and stones. When she woke up, she was hanging upside down like an animal. Diney roared and begged for mercy, asking to be released. Not long after, Ki Saptati arrived in his puppeteer's outfit, followed by Nyai Misni, who immediately took a knife and slit Diney's throat. Meanwhile, because Maya could not find Diney, she came to Ki Saptati's house to inform him that her friend was missing. Hearing this, Ki Saptati ordered people to look for his friend. Diney's blood was poured into a hole. Meanwhile, Nyai Misni, while singing, was drying something. It turns out that Diney has been skinned and her skin will be used as material for making puppets. Maya is increasingly worried about Diney's condition, especially since her phone is also inactive. Finally, Maya went to Ki Saptati's puppet show, which was attended by all Harjasari villagers. There she met the two men who had kidnapped Diney. They claimed that Maya's friend was still missing. Until finally, late at night, Maya was again visited by the apparition of a small child who said, in the local language, someone wants to give birth. The spirit invited Maya to the house of a villager who was to give birth. When Maya peeked through the crack in the door, she was shocked. Maya saw the baby born without skin and again killed by Ki Saptati by drowning. The child's father was angry and accused Ki Saptati of lying. Ki Saptati had promised that the baby would be healthy and safe. Kai Saptati immediately slapped the father. Ki Saptati did this for the safety of the Harjasari villagers. There was also another couple in the room who were worried that their baby was born without skin like the previous babies. Panicked and afraid of the situation, Maya unconsciously made a noise which fortunately she was immediately saved by Radith, the food seller. For a while, Maya was hidden in Radith's house. There Radhi explained that all babies born in Harjasari village had been affected by a curse. For the past 20 years, there have been no children there. That's why Harjasari village is only occupied by adults. Long before the curse, there was a wealthy man who was also the village head. He and his family lived in a large house that is now abandoned. They had many servants, one of whom was Nyai Misni, Ki Saptati's mother. The rich man eventually had a son, Ki Danawangso, the father of Rahayu or Maya, who eventually got all of his father's inheritance. When he passed away, Ki Danawangso lived a wealthy life. He was also very good at making and playing puppets, until his name was famous in neighboring villages. Long story short, Ki Danawangso fell in love with Nyai Shinta, the most beautiful woman in Harjasari village, who was admired by all men. Although she finally married Ki Danawangso with a 7-day and 7-night party. But after 3 years of marriage, they still had no children. Nyai Shinta was so ashamed and depressed that she fell ill. Then at the 8th year of their marriage, Nyai Shinta was pregnant and Ki Danawangso really took care of his wife so that their baby would be fine. In fact, Ki Danawangso always holds a party every Sunday night. Ki Danawangso is always the mastermind as a form of gratitude. But strangely, when the baby was born, it turned out to have no skin. None of the villagers had ever seen it before, including Ki Danawangso himself. Ki Danawangso eventually never socialized with the villagers again because he felt ashamed of his daughter's condition. Not long after that, there was a case of 3 girls disappearing somewhere, which caused an uproar in the village. Until one day, Ki Danawangso took his 5-year-old daughter out of his house for the first time. The daughter looked very beautiful and healthy, complete with skin. The villagers finally known that Ki Danawangso's daughter's name was Rahayu. But they suspected that the disappearance of 3 girls was caused by Ki Danawangso. Nyai Misni's son, Ki Septeti, told the villagers that Ki Danawangso must have practiced black magic and made a pact with the devil to save his daughter Rahayu by sacrificing the 3 girls. After the rumor spread, Ki Danawangso suddenly committed an absurd act. He killed all the musicians, including his wife, who was the Sindan singer. And finally, the people who saw the silhouette of the incident were very hysterical and immediately fled from there. Rahayu was rescued by one of the maids and taken out of the village. Since then, Harjosari village has been cursed, where every baby born is skinless. Radi added that all the babies would definitely be killed because there was once one skinless baby who was allowed to live. He was named Tol, but his life was miserable. Tol lived in the forest and never recovered. He is still skinless. According to Kai Septati, the only way to break the curse is to skin the first child affected by the curse, Rahayu. The skin will be made into puppets later. Maya, who is still in shock knowing all these facts, is again surprised by the photo of the strange man there, because it turns out that Radi is the wife of the strange man. Radi is currently pregnant. She said that her husband, the strange man, went to the city to look for medicine so that their baby would be born healthy. Radi actually knew that Maya was the Rahayu that she had been looking for, but according to her mystical grandmother said, the curse from the devil's covenant would never disappear even if Rahayu was killed. That's why Radi saved Maya and asked her husband to go to the city to look for medicine. Currently, Maya is still hiding the fact that the strange man who intended to kill her was shot dead by the police. On the other hand, Nyai Misni said that they had skinned the wrong person and the real Rahayu was Maya. The entire population of Harjosari was immediately gathered. They were asked to spread out to find the where of Maya, who was Rahayu, the woman who had been searched for 20 years until now. Soon 2 villagers came to Radi's house. Rahayu was immediately hidden. The 2 villagers said that one of the city women had died and asked if Radi had seen the other woman. Radi replied that she didn't know and immediately chased them away because they acted a little presumptuous by immediately eating without permission and intending to rape Radi because her husband had been gone for 3 months. Radi brutally scratched her leg, then threatened to kill herself so that her spirit could haunt them every night. The 2 villagers then go away. Rahayu was shocked and felt very guilty knowing that her best friend Daini was dead. Radi would help Rahayu to escape from the village through the forest. Rahayu also called Nano, the coachman, to come rescue her on the spot. Nano came with the police on a motorcycle. While waiting for Nano, the coachman, to arrive, Rahayu finally told Radi what really happened to her husband. Radi fainted instantly, and Rahayu could only apologize, even though it not her fault. Then soon Nano arrived with the police officer, who turned out to be a native of Harjosari village. Nano was finally shot dead. The policeman was part of Ki Sapardi. Knowing Rahayu would be called using Nano's cell phone, Rahayu immediately threw away her cell phone so that the villagers would chase in the wrong direction. Rahayu immediately ran away from there alone, because Radi was still angry that her husband had died. After the people had moved away, Rahayu ran to a road. Fortunately, she met a car that would help her get out of the village. But suddenly, the 3 ghosts of little children came back to Rahayu, and one of them told her what really happened in the past. Rahayu also got a vision that it turned out that Nyai Misni had an affair with her own master, that is Rahayu's grandfather, to give birth to her son Ki Septeti without anyone's knowing. That means Ki Septeti and Ki Danawangso can be said to be brothers. Then when they grew up, Ki Saptati and Nyai fell in love with each other. But because Ki Danawangso was wealthy and had power, Nyai could only surrender and finally married Ki Danawangso. Because she had not had any children for 8 years, Nyai told Ki Saptati, and this is where the unwanted mistake happened again. They got carried away and had intercourse, and the forbidden act was accidentally discovered by Nyai Misni was angry and finally performed a black magic ritual using Ki Saptati and Nyai hair to erase Ki Saptati's memory of Nyai. The curse for Nyai was that the baby in Nyai womb would die before birth, but Rahayu was still born, but with no skin. Ashamed of his daughter's condition, Ki Danawangso finally made a deal with the devil to cure Rahayu. The terms of the agreement were to kill 3 girls as sacrifices, then use their skins to make shadow puppets. Long story short, the ritual was performed, and Rahayu miraculously became as normal as any other child. However, because she continued to be disturbed by the 3 spirits of girls, Ki Danawangso finally inserted an amulet into Rahayu's leg to protect Rahayu from the disturbance of the 3 spirits. Not long after, Ki Danawangso, who was to perform, was suddenly knocked unconscious by Ki Saptati's men. Ki Saptati, under the influence of his mother's magic, pretended to be a puppeteer in Ki Danawangso's clothes and killed all the musicians behind him, including Ki Danawangso's wife and Ki Saptati's mistress, Nyai. From the silhouette, it is clear that the villagers thought it was Ki Danawangso, who went crazy and brutal. In fact, it was all the action of Ki Saptati, who was influenced by his mother's magic. The 3 spirits of the girls said that to remove Rahayu's curse, they had to take their skins back to Nyai residence to be buried with their corpses under the floor of Ki Danawangso's house. After that, Radi brought Rahayu to her senses. Radi also tried to accept the tough situation about her husband and immediately helped Rahayu. They escaped through the forest from the pursuing villagers. They stopped by Tol's house, the only baby left alive to adulthood. Tol had been fed by Radi. Long story short, they headed to Nyai house. Secretly, Rahayu and Radi took 3 shadow puppets from the cupboard. Rahayu and Radi immediately returned to her parents' house. Rahayu opened a secret door in the floor, then dug up the graves of the 3 girls to be reunited with all the bones and skin. After 20 years, the spirits of the 3 girls were finally able to leave in peace. The incident finally removed the curse that had been happening in Harjosari village. Although Rahayu's task is complete, she will stay until she sees for herself that the curse is gone. Rada said that night there might be a baby born. The baby was born healthy without any flaws. The curse had disappeared. Not long after, Nyai came and Rahayu asked Rada to go to the place where the people were going to give birth. Rahayu said that everything that happened in the village so far was because of Nyai actions. Then Nyai replied that Rahayu was a mistake that had to be erased. After that, the villagers came and immediately arrested Rahayu. Rahayu was hung upside down like Daini and will soon be slit by Ki Saptati. Rahayu revealed that now the curse was completely gone. No more babies were born with defects. This was because Rahayu had broken the curse by burying the skin and bodies of the 3 missing girls as requested by their spirits. In addition, Rahayu said that he was actually the daughter of Ki Saptati and Nyai, because Nyai deliberately made her son Ki Saptati forget about it. Ki Saptati was very surprised to know this fact. Then Ki Saptati asked his mother whether what Rahayu said was true, and whether what had happened so far was his own mother's fault. Nyai could not answer anything. She immediately prepared to slit her own throat, and asked Ki Saptati to choose between her daughter Rahayu or her mother. The situation was getting intense, and finally Ki Saptati chose to kill Rahayu. But luckily Radi came carrying a newborn baby and shouted that the baby was healthy. All the curses were over. However, Nyai, who still did not accept it, still tried to kill Rahayu at that time. Then suddenly Ki Saptati took his mother's hand and slit his own throat. This was done as penance for his actions so far, which had killed all the babies in Harjasari village. Meanwhile, Nai-Misni, who felt devastated by the death of her son and was afraid of being judged by the villagers, decided to commit suicide. After that, Ratty untied Rahayu and asked her to immediately run away from the village. 1 year later, the villagers of Harjasari were seen living normally as before. A couple was very happy because soon their baby would be born. But suddenly, this woman screamed in pain. Blood was flowing down her legs. Her stomach was also empty, because it turned out that the spirit of Nai-Misni was wandering and taking revenge by eating all the babies that would be born in Harjasari village. And the movie was ended.